Hello. Welcome, Simone, to
Thank
Women's History
you.
Month. Hashtag Choose the Challenge with Simone Rivers. I'm so excited to have this amazing woman here who is about to tell us all the wonderful things that she's doing in life, how she's making an impression and impact around the world. Welcome, Simone. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Hello, 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 everyone. It's your girl, C. Simone Rivers, affectionately known as the Yum Yum Ambassador. Why? Because I influence the flavor of every room I enter, and I'm looking forward to this interview with you, Luana. Let's see how we can influence the flavor of the rooms of your audiences.
Sounds good. So, why don't you start off by telling the audience what is a Yum Yum Ambassador?
I believe there's a scripture, oh taste and see that the Lord is good. I live my life that way. I believe life is supposed to be good, regardless of all the things that are happening in it. I believe there's an undercurrent of joy that we have access to. And every time I show up somewhere, I talk in that vein. So that's where that came from. That, and I had a very good Turkish friend in Germany when I lived there, and she didn't know a lot of English, and she would always call me delicious, and she would just say yum, and that's kind of where it came from. So I was an ambassador for my country when I met her, and that's where it came from.
I love it. I love it. It's definitely memorable, right?
That's the purpose. I keep using it.
So, one of the things that you do, I mean, you're an author, you're a speaker. Tell us what else you do to make an impact in the lives around you.
Well, I found it Triggering Light. It's a personal development consultancy with a social mission to support women who have been abused, women and children, but specifically women who have been abused, because I come from that vein. And what I learned in the process of going from where I was to where I am is there were very few people that were really talking about what they went through. They showed their pretty pictures on social media after the fact, but they never talked about the trauma, the PTSD, the sleepless nights, the what am I going to do, the homelessness, all of those things I experienced. And I use my life to impact the lives of other people in that business, teaching them everything from how to elevate themselves by taking what they know and creating work for themselves. Because sometimes I lived in an overseas environment where I couldn't do a lot to help myself, and I found ways to do it. But from a personal standpoint, I help women develop themselves so they can then present themselves to the marketplace.
That's beautiful, because sometimes when we're going through a journey or transition, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know where to turn, and to have individuals who are guiding and may have experienced what we've experienced, maybe a little differently, but it's still knowing that, you're like this sojourner truth, I'm going to show you the way, right?
Absolutely. I love her, by the way. I love her. I feel like if I had just met one person who was willing to tell me the truth about their experience, not the shiny bits, because I had all the shiny bits. No one knew what I was going through at home, but I put on a mask so no one had to know. But at the end of it, I tried to commit suicide. My son and I were driving around in the car looking for a place to park where no one would bother us. There were a lot of things that happened that I am very transparent about now, because the majority of the women that I work with were Claire Huxtable to the public. But the truth was, it didn't look so good when they got home. So I appreciate that I've been through some things that happened for me, not to me.
That's beautiful, and it kind of takes us into this hashtag Choose the Challenge. And I listened to what you just shared about your journey and going through the dark times, but it takes a certain level of grit and determination and self-challenging to rise up from that. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
I agree with you. Grit. One of the things that I hold on to is the strength of who raised me. The strength of who raised me. And there's some things that we have to admit to ourselves. We can't live in the space of victimhood. And with the whole choose to challenge mantra that I keep hearing it over and over again, I ask myself, what am I challenging? And what I am encouraging people to challenge is the idea that they are not leaders. This is not my cross to bear. Leadership is influence. That's all it is. And we all have influence, whether it's in our small little bubble or in a larger space, we all have influence. And if you can influence the space that you're in, that's going to have a ripple effect on the rest of the world. And there are three places I think that I would encourage women to take a look at. First, getting our heads in order. We have a lot of noise in our heads, a lot of noise. Some of it is not the best, but if we can just, I heard someone, I can't remember her name, call it HQT, just have a higher quality thinking process. Get rid of the I can't do it. I'm afraid to do it. I'm not worthy enough. I'm not smart enough. There's always going to be somebody smarter than you. There's always going to be somebody prettier than you, somebody tall or short or fatter, more educated, but you have your own space that you can influence. And if you can just change your thinking, you can change what you're experiencing. That's the first thing. We have to create higher quality thinking. The next thing is to heal. We are often sharing from our scabs, and we don't tell the whole truth because we're afraid someone's going to peel it off and we're going to be bleeding again. I believe that sharing from a scarred space gives you more power. I've been through it already. I've done it already. Let me tell you what I did. There's no fear. There's no, oh, what if she finds out that this happened to me? There's a lot of that I find amongst women when they're just not being completely truthful about what they're going through or what they've been through. So the second thing I'd say is to heal, and healing helps you become the leader that this world is aching for. I believe the world is aching for a new kind of leader, one with compassion. And the last thing would be to sharpen your hook. We all have something. I don't know what that something is for everybody, but I speak. I have to learn from people. I joined John Maxwell's team to learn leadership skills from him. I'm a part of WPN to learn from that group of people. There's another empowerment network that I'm a part of. So sharpen your skills, whatever those skills are. Maybe you don't do what I do, but you're a psychologist. You make children's books, whatever it is, sharpen your skills, because that's how you're going to hook the people that you are meant to serve. Those people who are assigned to you are waiting for you, and you have to sharpen your skills so that you can speak to them with compassion and not judgment. That's number one. We're quick to judge. Speak to them with compassion and not judgment, and bring them in. And you will find that whatever it is you have to say, people will listen. You just have to speak it in a way that they are receptive.
And that was beautiful. And I'm just going to just put a little bow around it. It's everything that you said. It does start with our mindset. Mm-hmm. So we have that stinking thinking, those limited beliefs that sometimes are buried so deep we don't even realize they're there. It's that subconscious triggers. And by peeling back the onion, we may not want to go there, but when we slowly peel back and reveal the truth, then, as you said, now we can heal. Now we've identified the pain, the source of the pain, getting to a point where we can forgive, especially forgiving ourselves. And then once we're there, we're now whole. And like you said, now you can start to expand. You can become bigger and better by strengthening those skill sets and positioning yourself to reach and teach and touch the lives that were only meant for you to touch.
And we have people that are assigned to feast at our table. And if we don't show up in our authentic selves, they die hungry and they're waiting for what we have to say. And all of us have a story. All of us.
I love that. That was beautifully said.
Thank you.
So let's talk about it's Women's History Month.
Mm-hmm.
And we put a lot of effort and energy in the month of March. And then it kind of dies away. We as women aren't really talking about it. But in March, we were busy waving our banners. I mean, this is what we're doing right now. But my question to you, how do we create a continuum in this conversation where we are elevating the consciousness of us as women, not only celebrating ourselves historically, but what we're doing now, preparing the future generation to stand on our shoulders?
You know, I'm not sure when Women's History Month became a thing. I don't know that date, but just like Black History Month and Asian Pacific History Month, or I appreciate the banner that's flying or that's flown, but if nothing gets done after we stop talking, it really has no purpose to me. So I am a woman, and there's a statement I heard recently about making history, not forgetting history, but making history. And of course, we had some women make history this year. I think it's important to recognize that you have something to do, to say, to teach on a daily basis. So just like Black History Month isn't just in the month of February. You know, we need to talk about who we are, what we've done, what we're doing all the time. So as women, I think that I appreciate the moniker that we've been given. It's Women's History Month. Let's do this, let's do that, where people are pouring in accolades and money, hopefully, to do some things to change things. But individually, I think it's something that we have to do on a daily basis. Like my son asked me a little while ago, what are we going to do for Mother's Day this year? And I said, today is Mother's Day. What are we doing today? I am your mother every day. Do you know what I mean? What are you doing today? Don't wait until next year. Oh, what is our theme going to be next year? And we put all of this effort around that. But I choose to challenge that idea that it's only a month. That's what I choose to challenge. The inequity of the matriarchal part of our balance not being elevated all the time.
I love that. So now that takes us into where we stand. 101 years ago, women in the U.S. received the right to vote. And the National Association of Women said they wanted to continue this into 2021, the focus and the celebration of the suffrage movement. Mm-hmm. But we know that white women received the right to vote in 1920. Asian women in 1954, blacks during the Voter Rights Act, 1964. And then I was really shocked to see that Native Americans, as far as having it seen that you couldn't have discriminatory voting practices applied against them. This was in 1980. And what we don't talk about, we celebrate the movement, the suffrage movement, but we forget that African American, Asian American, Native American women were girding up that. So what I want to ask you, in knowing that truth, not getting political, but yet we know in order to advance change, it is tied to politics. It's tied to guidelines, state, local, federal level. How can we as women use our voices to really fuel the fire of change?
First of all, I'm taken aback a bit by the um, the data that you just shared. Knowing that I'm 53 years old, just 3 years before I was born, my mother was voting. That takes me somewhere in my heart and in my mind. What can we do to promote policy? Well, I think one thing, and you said you didn't want to move it towards a political realm, but it's necessary in a way, because that's where the policies are set. I think it's important that we not be still, that we do use our voices to say this isn't good enough. And what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the
Oil.
oil.
Mhm.
And oftentimes as women, we are quiet. We're taught in order to be a proper woman, you have to be still and you have to be quiet. I was taught that as a kid, but
Yeah.
it's not. And then when we get loud, I'm now the angry Black woman, or when I voice my opinion now, oh, you're rather angry. What's making you so upset? Well, I think that it's important that the we not take on the emotion of what people give us, and we speak the truth, whatever your truth is. We just speak the truth as loudly as we can. What was it? I will not be silenced. I will not be silenced. My voice has purpose. I will not be silenced. I might be quiet, but I will not be silenced. Being quiet is my choice. Being silenced is someone closing my mouth. I might be quiet. Be careful though when I'm quiet. I won't be silent.
And that's such a powerful statement, and I hope those that are listening hear that. And one thing I loved is with Shirley Chisholm, she stated that when they don't offer you a seat at the table, you bring your own chair.
Mm,
And we have to challenge the systems, the norms that are out there if we truly want to see change. Sometimes we say, "Oh, I want to change the world," right? But
mm,
change first starts within, and then it ripples. So if you could change, like you said, you're a mother of a son. If
mhm.
you can change his mindset and position him for success, you've already impacted a generation, because imagine his children and children's children that are building upon that legacy of strength and truth and empowerment. And so I think that as women, it's really important that we pause and say, what can we do right where we stand first?
Right.
And then start uniting our voices and our actions in to create a greater world for humanity at large.
I say again that I believe that the world is aching for a new kind of leadership, one that is not, um, that is inclusive, that is compassionate, and is non-judgmental. You can be whoever you choose to be in this world, as long as you don't hurt me or hurt somebody that I love. And you speak about my son. I have two sons, by the way. There's just one at home, so I'm a mother of two. Hey, Joshua, I haven't forgotten you. um, Going back to what I said before, because the world is aching for a new kind of leadership, I believe that divine femininity is on the rise. I can't explain it in layman's terms. It's more of a spiritual feeling that I have, that women are moving from behind to on top. And it's important that when we get there, because we are going to get there, that we don't become the oppressors that we experienced.
Hmm.
Really, really important, because we are receivers. That's how we were made, and we are lovers. We are givers. I don't know if you've heard me say this before, but I believe that women are like quilting squares. Individually, we can't cover a whole lot. But if you've ever seen someone put a quilt together, they use these small little squares, and once they're all put together, it's beautiful. It's a tapestry for your bedroom. It's a covering for your family. It's a covering for your community. And that's how I see us. We have to come together first But before we can even get to each other, we have to heal ourselves, as I said before, get our heads in order, get our hearts in order, and sharpen whatever that tool is that we've been given. In our case, I think it's our tongue. We sharpen our tongue because we're going to hook some people based on what we say. And
Yes.
some of those hooks aren't going to leave. They're going to leave the fish still. We want them to stay alive. You know how you go fishing, you throw them back. We want them to stay alive. We don't want to. We don't want people to be afraid of our voice.
Yes. Well, the last question I have for you is, what woman that you knew personally most influenced you in your life and still impresses upon you today?
Well, I can't think of no other woman but my mother. I think you knew I'd say that. My mother passed away on November 23rd of last year. And she remains the largest influence in my life. I have seen her. My mother had a 6th grade education. Let me start there. My mother had a 6th grade education, and she remains the smartest woman I have ever known. She owned her home. That was important to her. I don't know why. She never explained it, but that was important to her, to own her home. There were times in my childhood that when we grew up in very humble means, with very humble means, but my mother sacrificed. She sent me to a private school. We didn't have running water and electricity sometimes, but she sent me to a private school. Why did she do that? I asked her when I was in my early 30s, and she said, I just knew that if I could help you understand that culture, you were going to help your own culture. Those weren't her words, but that's me sharpening my tongue. That's me sharpening my tongue. And I just appreciate all that she did for me. I didn't know my grandparents. My mother had me late in life. I never met my grandparents. My children got to know her. And every time she saw my son, she'd say, "Oh man, I need you to take care of your mama." When he was born, she said, "This boy has been here before," and she's called him Old Man Rivers ever since. And to hear her just pour into my kids, you know, a man should do this and a man should do that. And yes, ma'am. Yes, grandma. Yes, ma'am. Her influence impacts not just my life. My oldest son is married now. It's impacting his life, his wife's life. I appreciate that she taught me how to do it on my own. I didn't intend to do it on my own. My father died when I was 4 years old, and my mother raised all of us on her own. She did a pretty good job. And that's what I meant by leadership is influence. Nothing more than that. It's just influence. And her influence over our lives impacted the lives of 6 different families. Those 6 different families grow out to more families. So if we can just focus on that one little space, and that's what she would say, baby girl, it's not about what you learned. Because I think I've achieved a level of education higher than anyone else in my family. But she would say all the time, baby girl, it's not what you know and what you've learned. It's what you're going to do with it. And I think about that all the time. What am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with it? What is it that you know that you're not using to help yourself and somebody else? I refuse to cry, Luana. You're not going to do that to me.
No, I'm not going to make you cry. I'm just thinking.
I'm thinking about all the things she said to me, and there are a lot. There are a lot of things that I still hold on to and I still hold dear. You talk about Women's History Month. That's a woman that made history.
Well, I know in the short time that I've known you, I don't think that we've had a conversation where you didn't bring your mother up. So it's definitely just a testimony to her beautiful legacy, and how she lives on in you. And like you said, she's a ripple. She's touched so many lives, so many lives.
And I don't believe that's true for just my mother. You know, I'm putting together a compilation book called My Mama Said, because all I can hear is my mama said this, my mama said that. And the funny thing is, Luana, I have never said mama publicly. Like, I had a problem with that. Only my mother heard me say mama, but I did call her mama. My kids don't call me mama. I had this issue, this whole Southern thing that I didn't like about that. But lately, since she passed away, I hear myself say it over and over again. Well, my mama said, my son just the other day, he's a senior in high school. He made an A on a physics exam. And he said, he was proud of himself. He was so proud of himself. And I looked at him, I said, my mama said, don't break your arm trying to pat yourself on the back. And it just came up. So regardless, that's what I mean by we have influence in our own little space, and she influences me every time I'm speaking to him specifically. But what I learned recently was in doing different calls and talking to different women about being a part of this compilation project, not everybody had a mom like mine. Not everybody had the same kind of experience with their mother. And I found myself helping women through some trauma in those calls. But what I want to say is that every woman that has had the opportunity to be a mother, she did the best she could with what she had. And I promise you, she taught you something, even if she taught you who not to be. She taught you something. And I believe she deserves honor.
Beautifully said. I can't believe we're already out of time. This has been great. It's been wonderful having you. I'm going to let you give one last word to those that are listening. What do you want them to take away?
Well, I am led to something I said when I last spoke with you. We were on a panel together. I don't know why that's coming back in my spirit. Again, it's something that my mama said. I told you we grew up very poor, and we were all overweight though. We had a lot of food. We always had food. Isn't that interesting? That is so interesting. She fed the whole neighborhood. And that's why this is coming up for me. Sometimes there's an old adage about these two tribes who were born without elbows. So their arms did not bend. One tribe, they died off because they couldn't feed themselves. Try to feed yourself without bending your arm. You can't do it. And another tribe, they built schools and had businesses, and they grew. They advanced. They evolved. That's the word I'm looking for. And the way that they did, they were born the same way. They have every one of us is born with the same amount of potential. But this specific tribe, they didn't have the elbows, but they learned to feed each other. I'm trying to put my arm towards you. They learned to feed each other. And that's how they thrived. And I think it's really important. There were days when I would wake up and there would be a strange boy on my couch. And I say, Mama, who is that? And she'd say, this young man's parents told him they couldn't stay with them anymore. I'm going to let him stay here for a little while until he figures it out. Maybe someday you'll be somewhere and somebody will take care of my baby. That was the kind of person she was. And I want to encourage people to be compassionate and do more to help others with the little bit you have, because she had just a little bit.
But she had a big heart.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me, there's a song called, it was by Danny Bell, called Ordinary People. And one of the lines says, little becomes much when you place it in the master's hand. And that's what was going through my mind when you were just giving that story. and talking about your mom. So with that, Simone, thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you for
To
having
our
me.
listening audience, this has been Women's History Month. Hashtag choose to challenge. Words of wisdom, lots of golden nuggets have been shared here. Simone, how can individuals reach out to you?
I am C. Simone Rivers on all things social, and my website is csimonерivers.com.
Okay. So there you have it. Reach out to Simone, get to know her, learn what she's doing. You might even benefit from some of her coaching programs. Buy her book. And just show your love, show support for her and other women around the world. Thank you so much, Simone, again, for being a part of Women's History Month. Choose to challenge. And ladies, and to our listening audience, as we always say and celebrate you, love yourself, embrace yourself, and whatever you do, always celebrate you.
Thank you.
Until next time. Bye-bye.